Thank you so much, Steve. You actually said my name the proper way in English, so thank you for that. So it's great to be here and to be back this year, actually, after last year's event. So I think for some of you who were brave enough to face Omicron. By the way, nothing to do with Omnicom, just to clarify, because I've heard a few comments earlier this morning. Dave, this has nothing to do with us, right? But last year, obviously, there was maybe a smaller crowd for sure. And we'd already presented, or we introduced Attention on stage with Chrissy Hansen from OMD. And we were able to explain why attention was such a powerful metric from a media standpoint. And I think it's really encouraging to see all the progress that we've made as an industry over the past 12 months, because I think we've now moved on from the why attention to actually trying to understand how we can make practical use of attention to optimize our media process. And also, what's great is pure play digital vendors over the past 12 months have really started to embrace attention. But we think legacy TV players really need to jump on the bandwagon. And hopefully the research I'm going to share today is going to help do that. So first, let me give you a quick recap of, I guess, why attention is a valuable metric and how we're using it at OMG. Because we all know it's getting more and more difficult to get our ad campaigns noticed, right? We live in this, connected world of constant distractions, second, third screens, and one key measure of success is whether or not your ad has been seen and noticed. So you obviously need to drive that attention, but more importantly, you need to be able to measure it. And so we can influence the entire creative and media process with attention. For example, on the media planning side, we've launched our attention requirement calculator this summer called the ARC. And effectively, it sets the optimum level of attention that a brand needs. And it allows us to then optimize our media mix based on reach and attention objectives. On the buying side, we can also impact both branding campaigns as well as the lower funnel performance campaigns. And the evidence is there, and apologies, I think Jan from TVision showed a similar version of that chart. I want to believe my version looks a little bit nicer. I just have more color, more blue, right? But look, it's great, because I think we're all saying the same thing. There's so much evidence, right? The Attention Council has collected over 50 case studies that are showing the benefit of attention on things like brand awareness, more cost-efficient engagement, and increased conversion. So it's clear that attention-optimized media translates into better outcomes for advertisers. And at OMG as well, we've spent the last few months building fantastic insights with some of our key global media partners. So for example, with TEEDS, we looked at the link between context and attention. With Spotify, we improved our understanding of passive attention with audio and podcast. And Twitch even actually went a step further by looking beyond attention, by analyzing emotional response in the gaming environment. But you can also obviously probably see there's a few logos missing, the broadcasters, right? So what is that? And how does television perform on attention metrics? So today I'm going to share some findings from a study done by Karen Nelson-Field from Amplified Intelligence. Karen built a TV panel in collaboration with an Australian TV network, and that panel compares attention patterns on TV and broadcast VOD against other media and digital platforms. But before I share those, I also wanted to show this chart that Karen calls the hierarchy of attention. All this research that we've done in conjunction, in collaboration with Amplified, shows that the media platform has the highest weight in driving attention. So obviously, creative does have an impact, but with the platform, you have more bandwidth to increase attention by optimizing your media selection. So what Karen actually calls the elasticity of attention is higher on the platform than on the creative side. So in other words, if you've got a weak piece of creative, but the best media placement, you're going to drive higher levels of attention than if you ran the most impactful creative in the world in the wrong media platform. So clearly, the platform is the starting point of attention. And as a platform to drive attention, television doesn't look too shabby. Because here you can see that TV delivers much higher attention than any digital platform, especially when you compare this to scrolling platforms, which is effectively anything on a mobile device, so social media and so on. So with linear and BVOD, the percentage of active views is steady for the duration of the ad. And that's a big difference when you compare this to scrolling platforms, where you might get fairly high levels of attention at the very beginning for the first couple of seconds, but then that attention drops very quickly. And you can also see on here that broadcast VOD is literally the attention superstar. You get 20% more attention, more active attention on BVOD compared to linear TV. And it's really not that surprising when you think about it, because of the way CTV viewers will actively search and select content that they want to engage with. So here we have a more, lean-forward viewing experience, which drives more attention. And the data also confirms that the higher the engagement in the programming, the higher the attention paid to the ad. So engaged viewing is when the viewer has their eyes on the screen, with no distraction, no dual screening or talking to others in the room. And the default or neutral viewing is the natural way we watch television. So it includes some passive attention, being in the room but not always looking at the screen. And so what we see is that attention does drop during the commercial, but that drop is only around 8 percentage points. And more importantly, that level is always relative to the programming being watched, which means that advertisers have real opportunities to optimize ad attention by selecting higher engagement programming for their audience. And again, a big strength of television, as you can see, is the consistent levels of attention that are generated throughout the duration of the program or the commercial. But when we look at digital scrollable formats, you get a very different story, right? Because here you can see that the active attention decreases super quickly, right? It starts at 48%, but within 15 seconds, it has dropped to 25%. So it means that effectively the whole piece of creative wasn't viewed by the majority of your audience, and so often you'll be missing opportunities to deliver an impact, especially if you haven't optimized your creative. But you don't have that issue on television, right? Where you can really unwrap your creative story by driving more sustained attention for the duration of the spot. The data also shows that shorter ad breaks drive higher levels of active attention. Now, I guess it's not a huge surprise here, right? But what's more interesting is the very first spot attracts the highest attention. Then you can see that the attention drops gradually during the break and never comes back up. So that could be maybe a bit controversial for TV buyers, because TV buyers have paid historically premiums for first or last positions in the break, right? And actually this research shows there's not a great benefit in paying premiums for the last spot in the ad pod. What you want though is for your spot to be front-loaded in the break, and you also want to prioritize environments with shorter ad breaks and reduced ad clutter. And this chart summarizes the impact of TV against other platforms when it comes to ad recall and ad retention. So that's what is called the short-term advertising strength, or STAS. And that shows how long you can remember the brand and the message after an ad exposure. So after 30 days of ad exposure on TV or BVOD, you still get higher levels of ad effectiveness than what you get after the first day of an ad exposure on Facebook or YouTube. Now, if we look at more granular TV data by program, TVision, they presented earlier on, they ran a big panel on attention in 5,000 homes in the US. And so they've been providing us with very valuable insights on TV viewing. And their data shows that there isn't always a clear linear relationship between the ratings of a show and the levels of attention. So here you can see Chicago Fire has higher ratings but lower attention, while Dynasty one of my favorite shows, I shouldn't say that, as a more niche audience, but generates much higher attention. So this data can actually help our buyers optimize their TV schedules by building more efficient reach and attention against their audiences, what we call attentive reach. So I hope you can see why attention is the attention television is the attention medium, right? Hopefully that's clear with this chart. It really trumps any platform when you look at the percentage of active attention, but more importantly, the duration of that attention that you get on TV, the dwell time. And so this great chart that I think you've seen a similar version earlier, again, I think I've got nicer colors, it comes from Lumen and Ubiquiti, and it shows how much value you get on television when you look at the total amount of attentive seconds that you can buy as an advertiser. And again, nicer colors, from a cost efficiency standpoint, when you convert your traditional CPM into a cost per attentive second, so what Lumen and Ubiquiti here call ACPM, it effectively completely reshuffles the media value equation deck, right? It makes the TV inventory look much more cost efficient than even a standard IAB banner that normally has a much lower CPM. So clearly, attention can help grow your television business. But the question I think you might now have is, how do you make it happen, right? Where is the data? And how can you leverage it to improve outcomes for advertisers? Because, look, we know it's early days in this space. There are challenges with the availability of the data and the cost of eye tracking and facial recognition panels. Now, this is actually changing, and it's changing pretty quickly. The data is going to get cheaper and available in more markets across more media. But in the meantime, how can you start the attention journey today? So, at OMG, in order to push attention to the largest number of clients and markets, we've been using this flexible approach where we use a combination of solutions for activation. Obviously, the real deal is using true panel-based eye tracking facial recognition data, ideally in real time. So for digital, we're working with the likes of Amplified Intelligence, Lumen, Playground XYZ, or Viomba. We use mobile device cameras for eye tracking. Television is a little bit more complex, as Jan explained earlier, because you need to bring devices in people's homes, right? And we use facial recognition there rather than eye tracking. And that allows us to detect actually who's in front of the TV, right? Is that your mom? Is that your friend visiting you? Or is that your dog watching TV? You're laughing, but actually they do. My neighbor's dog loves dog TV, so it does work. It's a bit repetitive if you're a human, but it does work. So at the moment, we have two companies on the market, TVision and Amplified Intelligence, who are able to provide those TV panels. And we should see more of those panels coming out over the next 12 months, obviously in the UK, but also in Europe. So do watch this space. But in the meantime, we also use proxy signals of attention. And so in the digital space, we have verification partners like not Amplified Intelligence, Double Verify, with a product called Authentic Attention. And that's based on around 50 existing metrics, so they're not recreating the wheel. It's existing metrics that are linked to either user engagement or platform exposure, so things like scrolling speed, mass interaction, and so on. So for television, we use a TV attention score, and that's mainly relying on data already available in your TV measurement panel, so from the likes of Barb, Nielsen, or Médiamétrie. Again, here we're looking at signals of engagement or affinity to the programming. So for example, with loyalty ratings, we get the percentage of viewers who watch the entirety of the show. We also look at things like spot position in the break, ad clutter index, quality rating points, social media noise, and also the share of ratings that are bought in contextually relevant programming. So all those metrics are signals of programming engagement and ad exposure, which we saw earlier in the data, are all linking back to attention. So I hope you can see why attention is a huge opportunity for the TV market and for the wider premium video ecosystem. So if you are in the TV business, I think you should really jump on the bandwagon. It's not too late. And I know we're almost out of time, but I will be around both days, so do come and grab me if you have any questions or need any help in getting started with attention. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicolas. He's made a sharp exit, so there will be no questions. I would do my best to answer those questions, but as we know from the outset...
Sorry.
He's back, everyone. He's back, Nicolas.
Sorry. I was told we were... Okay, fine. Great.
It's fine. This is now going to be really awkward, so someone put your hand up with a question, okay?
And hopefully it's not Jonathan. Okay, great.
Yes. Lindsay. We've got a mic coming as well.
Thank you very much. That was great. I thought that we, the broadcasters, had leapt onto the attention bandwagon, but maybe not. But we certainly, we're certainly in the game. I would hope. I had a question about effectiveness, because I think all the IPA data says that the second most significant driver of effectiveness in advertising is the creative. So on your list, it appears much further down. So, and this is obviously just through the lens of attention. Through the broader lens of effectiveness, creative is actually incredibly important, I believe. Question: what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree creative is important, but the research on attention from Amplified shows there's greater, you've got more opportunities to optimize your media placement than your creative. So again, back to my example, I think if you have a slightly weak creative, but you're able to identify the best placement for your audience, you will get some results. The opposite is harder to generate. Again, it's based on the attention data. There's other things that come into play, of course. And obviously I'm a media guy, so for me this is music to my ear. But it does make sense, right? When you think about the variety of media placements and formats, you've got more room to maneuver to optimize on those than on the creative.
I have one more just there. Now I've opened up the floodgates, haven't I?
Hi. A great story. Very interesting to see how you can actually work in daily practice with intention data. I was wondering, can you also elaborate a little bit about the results of campaigns that you are planning on attention instead of other ways of planning?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't share client-specific results, obviously for obvious reasons. As I will refer back to the research from the Attention Council. But we have noticed improvement in brand lift on branding campaigns. So we've done a lot of A/B studies. And also on the programmatic, on the performance campaigns, by bidding to higher attention placement, we have evidence that we're able to lower the CPA for performance campaigns. So we've built like a pretty strong bank of evidence that we're starting to go to clients to. And that's fantastic. We can really apply attention to both upper funnel and lower funnel.
I asked for questions. You gave me questions. Thank you very much. Once again,
right,
Nicolas Grand.
Thank you.